So I restructured Canvas again just to simplify things a bit. So I separated the modules. I have a Europe Enlightenment module, which you'll see here. Okay, that goes through everything we did for the Enlightenment. Just a couple days right here, the 22nd, 23rd of October. So I'm going to minimize that. Then I have the French Revolution. So I separated Enlightenment, French Revolution, and the Industrial Revolution because it was getting a little too long for me. Okay, so that's what I did. I just restructured just a little bit. So don't get too confused. Everything's still in sequential order. Everything's still in chronological order by date. Okay, so you don't have to worry about that. But I think it'll make it a little bit easier for you to navigate Canvas. So here we are, November 6th. Okay, the starter, make sure you begin this here. So I like this question a lot. Based on the video, so basically based on yesterday's video, which of the following statements are true? Okay, go ahead and use your notes. Okay, use your notes from page 45 to help out. Prior knowledge just from the video, what you remember from the video. Okay, and then once you're done with that, hit submit, please. I'm not going to hit submit because then you'll actually see the answers. I don't want y'all to see the answers. Okay, so we'll get back down here. Okay, November 6th summary. Here's what we're doing today. Same as yesterday, but part 2 of the video. Everything else is the same. Describe child labor during the Industrial Revolution is the objective, which you will see on the ticket out the door. Okay, we're going to summarize the literal meaning of historical documents in order to establish context. So what we've learned is that these documents, what this video is doing is taking primary sources from actual kids from that time, and they've animated it in a way, and people are kind of speaking their journals to make it a little bit more, to grab our attention a little bit more. Okay, but these are primary sources, historical documents that they're using to help us better understand child labor during the Industrial Revolution. Unit is Europe, which is on the ticket out the door. Ideology impacts interaction, it's on the ticket out the door. Okay, then you have our synchronous work as the starter. We're going to begin 46 and then the ticket out the door. And then our asynchronous work is to finish 46 and the quiz, which again is on the ticket out the door. That ticket out the door should be easy 5 out of 5 every single day. Do not leave those points on the table. You have to do that and do that well, please. Okay, any questions, you put them in the chat, please. I'll take a look and help out any way I can. Okay. Okay, so take a look here, page 46. Everybody go to also to 46 in your digital notebook. It will look identical. In fact, everything is identical to exactly what we did yesterday, except for this is more content, Okay, it's a little bit different. Okay, so if you take a look, we got our video here. You're gonna watch this video. As that video plays, go to, all right, here we go. You should be on page 46. I split it into 3 sections, first 5 minutes, second 5 minutes, and the last 5 minutes. Okay, you need to have a minimum of 5 bullet points for each 5 minutes. That's 1 bullet point per minute. Honestly, what I would do is again, as you watch the video, just type, right? Just type what they say and press enter to the next line. Don't overcomplicate it. If you have more notes than you need, that's fine. Okay, because that's going to help you with, better understanding. It's going to help you looking back, and when you're answering the questions from the quiz, it's going to help you on the starter on Monday, all those things. So that's pretty easy to me, is watching the video, type in the notes as you go, press enter, and just take it from there. Okay, so those are the expectations again today. And again, don't forget to answer the questions as you watch the video. Again, you have to do both. You can't say, hey, I'm going to do the notes but not the quiz, and you can't do the quiz but not the notes. You have to do both of them. You have to do both of them. Okay? So keep that in mind. Here are the questions. I'm going to read through them, and then we'll get started with it. Why did more young marriages occur in England as the 18th century progressed? Bottom line is, why were people getting married earlier? Okay, which led to greater population increase. Then we have, what industry was the biggest employer of children in England? Okay, was it manufacturing, like in factories? Was it agriculture on farms? Was it transportation? Was it in mining and coal mines? Okay, question 3, children who lived on farms were less vulnerable to mistreatment by masters than those in the factories. True or false? So basically, if you were working on a farm as a child, were you less vulnerable? True or false? And then question 4, working as a human scarecrow was a real job children did on the farms. True or false? And question 5, what were climbing boys? Okay, so take a look at that. And I see that human scarecrow question, and it reminds me of a time in Malawi where literally on the farms and the fields in Malawi, they would have little stick kind of structures that kids would sit under. And anytime a baboon came, they would have to like slingshot, shoot something to scare away, or other animals, which like is a form of child labor. Okay. So anyways, let's, so go ahead and we'll do the first.
They blamed high wages. With 1 in 10 men away fighting, able adult workers came at a premium and cut into profits. Pitt's advice was short and simple. He is supposed to have told them, yoke up the children. Luckily for Pitt and for Great Britain plc, for the first time in its history, the country was awash with children. In the mid-1700s, the population of Britain was small and stationary, around 5.7 million. But by the end of the century, it had shot up by more than 50% to 8.7 million. So, what changed? The answer's in here. This is St Michael's in Madeley, Shropshire, built by that great man of the industrial age, Thomas Telford, in 1796. There's been a church on this site since Norman times, and the marriage registers are long and very well maintained. Ah, now these are beautiful records. You can see here somebody's not been able to sign their name, so they've put their mark. And elsewhere, they've struggled to...
Is that book a primary or secondary source? Can y'all put the answer in the chat for us, please? Is that book a primary or secondary source? And why? Tell me why. Tell me why as well. Let's get a little more, let's get some more answers from a few other people, please. Is that book, these marriage records, from who knows how long ago? We're probably looking at the 1800s. Yeah, this is going to be a primary source from that time of these marriage records from that church, and this book is preserved. These are the actual signatures which document who got married and when they got married. Okay, so that's a really cool document that she's using for that. Okay.
Write their signatures. Now, study of these and other records have shown that as the 18th century progressed, more people were marrying younger. Now, why was that? Previously, men and women were employed to work the land and lived in with their employer, usually a farmer or a big local landowner. These men liked to keep their young employees single because married employees had children and were more of a burden. But advances in farming practice meant less people were needed to grow food, so fewer people lived in and more were kicked out. Of course, that meant that there was no master to ask for permission to wed. These liberated workers began travelling, earning their wages in new industries. The pay wasn't great, but it wasn't based on the sliding scales of farm work. They reached their peak potential earnings at younger ages and so attempted to marry and start families sooner. Women with jobs found their earnings could shore up new families, adding again to the temptation to marry younger. As for those women who couldn't find work, well, they were eager to marry young and gain financial protection. The result, in the early 1700s, the average age of British brides had been nearly 27. By 1800, it had fallen to 23 and a half. Those 3 additional years of married life were crucial. Girls were at their most fertile and could produce 2 additional babies. So at the very moment that Britain was prepared to take the giant technological leap into the machine age, it had its largest, youngest population. And it was a mobile population, able to adapt to change. Everything was tailored towards delivering the industrial future. But that industrial future needed feeding, and children played a role in that too. We tend to think of children from this time as working in mines and factories, but in fact, child labour was ubiquitous. Almost every workplace would have had children in it, and the biggest employer was actually agriculture. Agriculture accounted for about 1/3 of children's jobs, often on small setups like this one. This farm was attached to the local rectory and worked by a small team, including boys and girls. Of course, agriculture is one area where we still see children working today, ushered into the life of the farm under the watchful eye of their parents. The children of the Industrial Revolution rarely enjoyed such a gentle introduction. Unlike the factory apprentices, child farm workers were often the only children employed on an establishment. And they were also housed with their master or another adult worker, and there was no one looking over the shoulders of these men to see how they were treating their child employees. As a result, these children were often more vulnerable than the children who worked in factories.
All right, we'll stop there, and that actually, I believe, even got us maybe through a few questions and from the quiz. So you should have at least 5 bullet points. Let's do this. Everybody add 1 bullet point into the chat, please, very quickly. Add 1 bullet point into the chat, and then we can see, and if you like what somebody's written and you don't have it down yourself, then you can add it to yours. Yeah, people married young, right? Anybody else? Keep adding. Let's go. Let's get more in there. Yep. A lot of factories had child. Yeah, factories. But what is this? The focus of this portion of the video is what? What industry had child labor? Younger population, needed more food. Yeah, children were working on farms. Agriculture was dangerous for kids. Good. These are all really good. Okay, so if you like what you see in the chat, you can add it to yours. Okay, if you like what you see in the chat, you can add it to yours. And I think they even talked about the first couple questions. Oh my goodness. They got through the first 3 questions. Just got to question 3. Why did young marriages occur in England as the 18th century progressed? And then what industry was actually the biggest employer of children in England? And then children who lived on farms were less vulnerable to mistreatment by masters than those in the factories. Okay. All right, everybody go to the ticket out the door, please. Ticket out the door, please. Pretty straightforward, just like it always is. It's going to be the same 4 questions. Maybe every once in a while, I'll add a 5th question in there. Okay, but take a look at this. Ticket out the door, November 6th. Okay. What's the objective? What unit are we studying? What is the statement of inquiry? And then what is the asynchronous work for today? Okay. Any questions? Y'all put them in the chat. Any questions? All right. Thanks, everybody.